You ever had technology betray you? I'm not talking about your phone freezing or your laptop dying before you hit save. I mean real betrayal, when the devices that are supposed to make life easier suddenly expose truths you weren't ready to hear. That happened to me one Thursday evening, while I was chopping onions for pasta, half watching the steam rise from the pot, and suddenly my kitchen filled with voices that weren't supposed to be there. Except they weren't strangers. They were her voice and his, and the way she spoke. It wasn't the voice she used with me. It was the raw, unfiltered version she'd been hiding. All because her burner phone, the one I didn't even know existed, had synced to our Alexa speaker. At first I thought I was going crazy. I heard her laugh. This low, throaty laugh I hadn't heard in months. And then a man's voice, deep and smug, saying something like, "You're mine when you're here." I froze mid-chop, the knife still pressed against the onion, my eyes watering from more than just the sting. I told myself it had to be some glitch, maybe a podcast or ad somehow bleeding through. But then she said his name, clear as day, and it wasn't mine. I stood there in my own kitchen, spatula in one hand, knife in the other, listening as my girlfriend of 3 years whispered and giggled with some other guy through a speaker I bought, in an apartment I paid most of the rent for, while I made dinner for the two of us. If you've ever had that kind of moment, you know your body reacts before your brain catches up. My chest went tight, my palms sweaty, my ears burning, but my mind went perfectly quiet. Too quiet, the kind of quiet that only happens when your whole world has just been split into before and after. I don't know how long I stood there listening, maybe 2 minutes, maybe 10. All I know is I heard enough to realize this wasn't new. This wasn't some fling or mistake. They had rhythm, inside jokes, references I didn't understand. He teased her about something she'd said last time. She promised she'd wear that thing when she saw him next, and I just stood there, onion juice stinging my eyes, my stomach twisting, realizing my relationship had already been over long before this dinner. When the call ended, the kitchen went silent again, except for the bubbling pot of pasta water. And here's the messed up part. I turned the stove off, pushed the pan away and laughed. Not a happy laugh, not even a bitter one. More like the kind of laugh you let out when the universe punches you so hard in the gut that your body doesn't know what else to do. Alexa had ratted her out. The device she used to play meditation playlists and cooking timers had betrayed her, and it had handed me the truth without me even asking for it. Now the obvious reaction would have been to confront her the second she walked through the door. But I did. Something in me, call it instinct, call it pride, told me to wait, to be smarter than that. Because if she could lie so easily, if she could smile at me every day while talking dirty to him behind my back, then I needed more than anger. I needed proof. I needed control. So I started paying attention. Every time Alexa lit up, I made note of it. Every odd sound, every faint voice, I catalogued in my head. I dug into the app on my phone, the one that logged all activity, and there it was, timestamps of calls, synced devices, things I never knew to look for before. It didn't take long to see the pattern. Nights she claimed she was working late, calls logged. Weekends she said she needed me time. Device synced, always that burner phone, the one she thought I'd never discover. But here's where it got twisted. The more I listened, the more I realized how little she respected me. She didn't just cheat, she mocked me. Jokes about how clueless I was, how I never noticed when she slipped away. She laughed about the dinners I made, the trips I planned, as if I was some background character in her little double life. That cut deeper than the cheating itself. Because betrayal is one thing, but contempt, that's worse. That's poison. And yet I didn't explode. I didn't scream or pack her things in trash bags like I'd seen in movies. No, I played along, smiled, asked about her day, kissed her forehead goodnight, while she texted him under the covers, thinking I was asleep. Every moment became a performance. Her on one stage, me on another, both pretending but only one of us knowing the other's script. I'll admit, part of me wanted to break then and there, to call her out, throw the phone on the table, demand answer, but the colder part of me, the one that had been humiliated before, decided to be patient, because if Alexa could betray her once, it could do it again, and I wanted the whole play, not just the first act. So I waited. I cooked dinners. I cracked jokes. I acted like nothing had changed. Meanwhile, every evening, I went into the Alexa history, downloaded the audio logs, and stored them on a hidden drive. I had her voice saying things she could never explain away. Him too. It was all there, plain as day. No excuses, no wiggle room. And every file I saved made me colder, calmer, sharper. She thought she was playing me, but the truth, she was playing herself, because I had the one thing cheaters fear most. Evidence they can't deny. That was the beginning of the end, though she didn't know it yet. She thought she was clever, sneaky, untouchable, and maybe with anyone else, she would have been. But she forgot that technology has no loyalty. Devices don't lie. And in the end, it wasn't me who caught her. It was Alexa. The thing about living with a secret like that is it changes the way you see everything. I'd be standing at the sink washing dishes, and I'd glance at her phone charging on the counter, and instead of seeing just a rectangle of glass and metal, I saw a doorway into another version of her life I wasn't invited to. Every time Alexa lit up with its little blue ring, my chest tightened, wondering if I was about to hear more of their private show spill into my kitchen. I started to realize that I wasn't living with her anymore. I was living with ghosts. The ghost of the woman I thought she was, the ghost of the life I thought we had, and the ghost of every dirty word whispered to him that I couldn't unhear. And yet I played my part. I smiled when she kissed me goodbye. I nodded when she talked about her day. I asked how work was, knowing full well that work for her had become shorthand for him. It was surreal, like acting in a play where you already know the ending, but the other actor doesn't. I wasn't her boyfriend anymore. I was her audience, and she didn't even realize I was watching from the wings. But I wasn't just watching. I was preparing, because every time she thought she was clever, every time she walked out with her hair brushed a little too perfectly for just yoga, I was checking the Alexa history. I became obsessed with it. I could practically recite the timestamps. Thursday at 7:14 p.m. Call from the burner phone. Saturday at 2:32 p.m. Device sync while she swore she was at her mom's. Sunday at midnight. Whispers, laughter, promises. I collected it all like evidence in a case file, because in my head that's exactly what it was. A trial waiting to happen. And here's the part I haven't told anyone before. There were nights when I would sit there alone, headphones plugged in, listening to their conversations on repeat. Not because I enjoyed it. God, no. But because I wanted to understand. I wanted to know how long it had been going on, how deep it went, whether she ever mentioned me by name. Sometimes she did, and those were the worst. The little jabs, the jokes about how clueless I was, how I'd never suspect a thing. They laughed at me together, and each time they did, the anger in me didn't explode. It condensed. It got denser, sharper, until it felt like a blade I was slowly forging in secret. I started to notice something else too. She was sloppy, not just with Alexa, but with everything. Her lies recycled, her excuses thin, her energy split between two worlds. She thought she was balancing it all, but she wasn't. And the more I saw her stumble, the more I realized I didn't even want answers from her anymore. I wanted justice. I wanted the kind of ending she couldn't spin or reframe, or crawl her way out of. So I waited for the right night. The night she said she was going to a team dinner. She dressed up, heels, lipstick, the perfume she used to save for our anniversaries. I kissed her cheek, wished her fun, and watched her leave. As soon as the door shut, I went to the Alexa app, hit record on the synced line, and waited. Sure enough, 10 minutes later, it lit up. Her voice, low and giddy. I'm on my way. His voice rough with anticipation. Can't wait to see you. I let it play. I let the recording capture everything. Her laughter in the Uber. The way she told him she'd lied about her work dinner. The way he promised her a night she'd never forget. Every word was a nail in the coffin she was building for herself. By the time I stopped the recording, I had hours worth of evidence. Not just hints, not just suspicions. Proof. Undeniable. Airtight proof. When she came home later, smelling of cologne that wasn't mine, I didn't say a word. I let her crawl into bed, let her wrap her arm around me like nothing had happened. And I lay there staring at the ceiling, already rehearsing what I was going to do. Because the reveal wasn't going to happen in private. No. That was too easy for her. I waited 2 days, long enough for her to relax, to think she'd gotten away with it again. Then I invited a few close friends over for dinner. Mutual friends. The kind who'd seen us as couple goals. I cooked a meal, opened a bottle of wine, set the table. She was all smiles, playing the doting girlfriend, laughing at my jokes, topping off drinks. I played along, letting her bask in the illusion a little longer. And then in the middle of dessert I said, "Alexa, play the last recording." The room went silent. The blue ring lit up, and then her voice filled the air. Not the polite, sweet voice she used in front of friends. No, it was the other one. The raw, secret version. The giggles, the breathy whispers, the promises, and then his voice calling her baby, telling her he couldn't wait, the kind of thing that leaves no room for denial. She froze, fork halfway to her mouth, eyes wide, face draining of color. Our friends stared at her, then at me, then back at the speaker. No one moved. No one spoke. The recording went on, every word sharper than a knife, until I finally said, "Alexa, stop." The silence that followed was deafening. Then slowly, I turned to her and said, "You brought this into our home. You thought you could hide it, but technology doesn't lie. And now everyone knows exactly who you are." She tried to speak, tried to stammer out an excuse, but the words caught in her throat, tears welled in her eyes. But I didn't care. Not anymore. I stood up, pulled out the folder of saved logs and photos I'd prepared, and dropped them on the table. "This isn't just a mistake. This is months. This is deliberate. And you laughed at me while you did it. You thought I was stupid, but I was watching the whole time." The friends looked sick, caught between pity and disbelief. She covered her face with her hands, sobbing, but it was too late. The mask was off. The truth was out. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just said, "Pack a bag. Tonight. You're done here." And I meant it. She left with her mascara streaked down her cheeks, clutching a duffel bag she barely had time to fill. Our friends sat in stunned silence, until finally one of them whispered, "Man, I don't even know what to say." I poured myself a drink, sat down at the table and said, "Say nothing." She said enough for all of us. That night, after everyone was gone, I sat in the quiet apartment and let it all sink in. The anger, the humiliation, the relief. It all swirled together until what remained was a strange calm. Because for the first time in months, maybe years, there were no more lies, no more shadows, just me, alone, and the kind of peace that only comes after a storm has leveled everything in its path. And you know what? I didn't feel broken. I felt free, because as brutal as it was to hear her dirty talk spill through our Alexa, it was also the thing that saved me. It pulled the mask off. It gave me the clarity I needed to stop wasting my life on someone who saw me as a punchline. Now, whenever I tell this story, people always shake their heads in disbelief. Her burner phone really synced to Alexa, they ask. That's how you found out. And I know. Because sometimes life hands you truth in the most ridiculous ways. Not through a confession, not through detective work, just through a dumb, smart speaker that doesn't know how to keep secret. And I smile when I say it, because the irony is perfect. She used technology to cheat, and technology is what destroyed her.